Hello, my name is Dr. Jeff Aberle, and if you suffer from brain fog or just you can't think clearly, you feel like you're running on 6 out of the 8 cylinders in terms of mental function, something of that nature, or if you have tingling or numbness, then this video is going to explain why you have those types of issues. I see quite a few people that come into my office, probably about 1 out of 5, that have some kind of brain fog. And sometimes you can tell just by talking to them, you know, every question you ask, there's a lot of thinking involved. Sometimes you can just see it in their face, poor color. They're just not, I don't know. Sometimes I can tell, and I often ask, any chance you have brain fog? And the brain fog is also another way of explaining this. You almost feel like you have a veil over your existence. You know, like when you get married, you know, you have that little veil that goes over your face and stuff, so you can't see out as well. And that's kind of what people will feel. And then when I'm about to get rid of the brain fog on them, I'll have them pay attention to the color in the room, the color of the table, which is usually in the room with a blue table. And look at the intensity of the color here. And if I have a colored shirt on, I'll say, well, look at that, and just look around you. And then after I do a few maneuvers and get rid of the brain fog, I'll say, well, now how does the room look? And they'll usually be like stunned as to how much brighter and more alive, not only that they feel, but that they can see better and they can think clearer, and within a short period of time that brain fog is gone. And it's quite amazing. So I want to show you why you get the brain fog, what it is. And if you've never heard these concepts from your medical doctor or your neurologist, I'm not surprised, because they don't even think that this stuff exists. They think that chiropractors are quacks oftentimes, and they don't want anything to do with it. Everything is surgical, and if they can't see it on an MRI, then it doesn't exist. So let's just get into what's going on here. So what I'm going to do is just start with the basic anatomy, and we're gonna just delve into this, and then I'm going to show you a case example of the worst case situation of tethered cord syndrome that I've ever had. And this person had more than brain fog. It was a lot of other neurological symptoms too that reminded me of cerebral palsy, upper motor neuron lesion problems, and how the Advanced BioStructural Correction method of treatment actually gave this guy his life back. So I'm going to cover some different stuff, but let's just get in, and I'll show you some videos of him too, and some of the tests that you can do on yourself if you think you have this. So just looking at the skeletal structure from the side, you can tell we have a curve here in the neck, a curve here in the thoracic region, and a curve here in the lumbars. And then from the back, we have a nice straight spine. So this is how a person should look. Now, most people don't look anything like that. They usually look something more like this. So they've got loss of curves from the side view, and in the back, they've gained them. Things are rotated or twisted, and it's just not a healthy spine. Now, everybody thinks that they're like this, right? You know, everybody thinks that they're healthy and that their spine is fine. But most people really are. They're distorted in some way or another. Now, this is 1 out of a billion combinations that you could have. So it's not an infinite number of combinations, but there's so many that it'd be ridiculous to count. And how you go about fixing this, I'm not going to cover here. That'll save for a different video. I just want you to understand what's causing the brain fog. Now, what I want you to see is that there is a spinal cord. Now, here I have it in a checkerboard effect. In some of these other videos or animations here, I have it as a yellow, so you can almost see it a little bit easier. The reason why the checkerboard effect is nice is because when it's moving, you can actually then see it moving, where when it's all yellow, it's harder to see up and down movement. That's why I made the 2 different colors. But then on this other animation again, too, the other structure that we're talking about here is this meningeal tube, and that's in blue on this animation. And the cord is in checkerboard. Now, I want to just show you real briefly what this is, because here I'll just show you a little close-up. So we're going to look at 2 vertebrae here, and so let's just pick 2 vertebrae. In fact, I'll go to the other screen here. So we'll just pick these 2 vertebrae, so 1 and 2, and I'm going to show a close-up of those. And now here the cord and the meninges are not showing, but over here they are. Now here the meninges are in pink. So in this other animation they were in blue, but here it's in pink. The cord is in this grid-like look. Now what's interesting is that the pivot point of these vertebrae is right in front of the cord. So when a person bends forward and goes into flexion, it pivots right about here, and the cord gets stretched. You see that? So there it's neutral, there it's stretched. And then when it goes back to neutral again, it goes back to its original position. And then when it goes into extension, it actually slackens and gets more loose. Now that's in a healthy person. Then it goes, okay, then back to normal. So it's neutral, flexion, neutral, extension, back to neutral again. And that's kind of like this spine here going, bending forward, back to neutral, going backwards, back to neutral. But I was just showing those two vertebrae. And we'll come back to that here in a bit. But what I also want to show you too is it's a little hard to tell here what's going on. So I brought up the 3D program so we could look closer. Now this is how I made this other animation that you just saw. So as I scrub this back and forth, you'll see, so flexion, neutral, extension, neutral. Okay, so you can see that right there. And what I want to do is just rotate this so you can see what's going on. Now the colors aren't going to show up here because I have all these in kind of a transparent mode so you can see. So what this thing is here, this is the disc, and then this is one of the vertebrae, this is another vertebra, this is the meningeal tube, and then that's the cord. So the cord is a solid object, and then the meningeal tube surrounds it. And the meningeal tube is very strong. There's an anatomy professor up in Toronto that said that they actually took the meninges out of a cadaver and they pulled a car with it. So this structure here is very, very strong and sturdy. And then what fills the gap in here is cerebral spinal fluid and another part of your meninges. And I don't want to get into the 3 different layers of the meninges, but there's a spider-like structure that's within this that is another part of your meninges. The biggest, strongest part is this outer layer here, which is what I'm showing. Now these little fibers right here are called dentate ligaments. And what I want you to realize here is, and I know I'm getting into a little more detail than you probably want to know, but watch what happens to these things when the spine goes into flexion. So when it goes into flexion, those get taut. See that? And so flexion is a more stretchy, stressful situation for the spinal cord than neutral. See, they go slack and neutral, and then extension, they get slack as well. So there's no tension from these ligaments except in flexion. And in certain bending to the right and left, they do some neat things too. But most people don't understand the function of these ligaments. But what I want you to notice is that the cord here is not touching, so the spinal cord in the center is not touching the meningeal tube at all. There is space all the way around it. And that is critical for the next part I want to say. So when we go into, for example, this person here. Now this is, let me show you, this person, these are X-rays, well these are derived from X-rays of a person sitting and then standing in the transition between the two. So the only 2 points we had to make this were the beginning and the end. And so we just let the computer fill in the middle part here. So somehow it transferred from this position to this position, and this is the computer just doing a linear approximation of the way it happened. So it might not have looked exactly like that when they went from sitting to standing. I just want you to be clear on that. We would have had to have taken an X-ray at every little point the person's standing. That's not the point of this. The point is that the spine looks radically different from sitting to standing, and that's how advanced biostructural correction was actually figured out, was seeing how people changed from sitting to standing and what moved and what didn't. And it was a big part of being able to figure out how to fix the human body consistently and predictably. Luckily, you don't need to have X-rays to fix people, but they were definitely needed during the development of the method to actually fix the body. Now, back to this, here's the sitting and there's the standing. Now notice here that the cord, shown in yellow, is touching different parts of the body. So you can see here it's touching there, 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 touching there, touching there. So this cord is tethered in a whole bunch of spots. And it's the tethering is a gluing effect that it has to these different parts of the cord. And you can see that affects the function of it from sitting to standing. So look at the cord there and then look at it here. And just look at this section. how it changes from standing back to sitting. See how it gets fatter when you're sitting? Okay, so the tension happens when it's more in this standing, when this person is standing up. So this is where the position of the cord and the stretch on the cord changes with position and with posture. Because obviously this person's standing posture is very much different than it should be. So here the cord is neutral, it's not tethered in any place. Now those ligaments there, going back to this one, those ligaments create a tethering effect, but that's a normal effect, is to prevent too much spinal, to prevent certain motions of the cord. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about literally a gluing, a scarring effect of the meninges touching the cord, and so that's a tethering effect right there. That's what I wanted to get across. So back in this animation, so you can see that same animation now with the textures applied, but I can't rotate this around like I did in the 3D program. So you get to see that, how flexion creates that. So if you have the brain fog, or you have tingling and numbness, what you have is cord tension somewhere or in multiple places along the spinal cord length. And that's amazing. And this is where the medical profession, and nothing against them, they just don't understand that this can happen. And a lot of chiropractors, they understand that the brain connects to the organs and to the muscles, and that you got to have, this has to work right. But their methodology of figuring that out and how to try to fix that is, it's less than desirable. There's just a different way that solves this consistently and predictably, and it's fun. It's awesome. And when I find somebody coming into my office with the type of symptoms like the person I'm going to explain to you and show you, worst case scenario of tethered cord syndrome I've ever seen, and I hope I ever do see. Although they are fun to fix, it's just they're not always quick. Like this guy worked on it for quite a long time before he saw changes. But most people with the brain fog, man, that's over with real quickly. Usually within a visit or two, and they are feeling tremendously better. And I've had a few people take, quite a bit longer than that, because they just had more tethering going on and more of the stretch. But when the cord gets tethered and connected down here, what it does is it stretches the cord, and if that stretch propagates all the way up to the brainstem, the brainstem gets tugged on. And that can even tug on your brain and cause all kinds of weird neurological symptoms that are unexplainable. And nobody will have any answer for them. And if they do have an answer, it's like, I don't know if I believe that or not. But it'll give you all these weird neurological symptoms. Now, your brainstem is where all your vital functions are handled. Breathing, everything that's automatic seems to be handled in the brainstem. Breathing, sweating, blood vessel dilation, constriction, heart rate, sweating. Did I already say that? I mean, everything that's important, eye dilation, everything that's automatic that you don't have to think about is handled in the brainstem. And so what happens is you have the brain, and then off of that comes the brain stem, and then off of that comes the cord. So it's in that order. And when you have these spinal malpositions here, and then you add the tethering into it as well, that creates the stretch that causes all the different symptoms that people have. And I do want to show you this other person too. So here's another situation, and that is sitting. Now look how weird that spine looks sitting. I mean, could you imagine that even be possible? And this person probably thought that their spine looked just like this as well, happy and healthy. So everybody always thinks that their spine looks fine until you actually X-ray them or just feel. I mean, as a doctor, I can just feel it on a person's back, and I go, oh my gosh, this person's a mess. And all they have is a little low back pain. But their spine is just a disaster, and they don't even feel it. They don't even notice it, because pain is just a terrible mechanism for figuring out if you're good or not. But anyway, so this person sitting looks like that, and standing, it look quite a bit more normal, but yet this is just looks like all straight as a board, and that shouldn't be there at all. And so anyway, so that's what's going on here, and you can see all the distortions and the twists here. Very bad scenario. But if we add in and look at the cord, so there, look at that. Does that look anything like it should? It's tethered in a whole bunch of different spots, and then when a person stands, notice how the stretches even change. Look at this part here, from there to there, this is all stretched, and so this person would probably have more symptoms standing up versus sitting down. Okay, and so we already went over the flexion. I think I covered that enough. Flexion creates more stretch. So one of the things you can do, and is what I did with this patient of mine that has this tethered cord syndrome clearly, is I had him flex his head while he was sitting down. Symptoms increased. And then when he put his head backwards, the symptoms went away. And then I had him bring him back down again, and they started up right away. And there's one little issue in here that it makes it look like an extension he had a problem, but he actually did flex his chest at one point, and I'll try to point that out to you. And it's these little things that can make such a huge deal if your cord is really tethered up. So that should do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop over. We'll show you some of the video that I took with this gentleman, and we'll just show you, and I'll try to either overlay my voice or I'll put some text in here, and we'll try to show you what this situation is like. Now, anybody watching this, I really doubt you're going to have this type of a situation. But chiropractors, any chiropractors out there that are watching this, ask yourself, would you take this person on as a patient, and know what to do with them? And if not, then I strongly urge you to look into Advanced BioStructural Correction, because it really is. It's an amazing method. It is consistent and predictable. It works on everybody, provided they don't have cancer, infections, or fractures, or something like that. It's just a way of mechanically fixing people in ways that you've never seen before as a chiropractor, I promise you. Now, we've all had those miracle cases, no matter what method we're doing, but for consistent and predictable results, Advanced BioStructural Correction is the way to go. So anyway, let's go over to those videos real quick, and then we'll come back. That's kind of neat. Okay, so go ahead and... perfect timing.
Happy with that one?
Yeah, I'm not happy for you, but I'm happy we finally got it on tape.
Yeah, great. I'm glad for you.
Now, out of curiosity, bring your head forward and see if that makes it worse. Take it down as far as you can. Is it worse when your head's down? Yes. Okay, now bring it back up and tip the head backwards. Is that better?
Not done. There it is.
Okay.
But I've been going limp too, like totally losing legs.
Kind of what we just saw when you're walking, or worse than that?
Well, just like no strength. Okay. Totally gone with the strength in legs.
So you can't even stand?
No.
Okay. Okay, now take your head forward again. Aha. Definitely cord stretch. That is awesome. Okay, yeah, you can bring it back up. That's mean to keep you there. Okay. Wrong button. Okay, so go ahead and walk. They went weak, right, Scott? Okay. Yeah.
Ugh, that's sick.
Leg. Okay. Got it. Okay, so this is right after treatment, what, 8 minutes or so? Okay, so turn to the right. You're a little off balance yet? Okay. A lot better. Good. You feel much more with it?
Yeah, a lot. Not so nauseous. Not so much nausea either.
Yeah. Good. Yep, let's keep walking. Get your left foot clumping down, okay? And turn on, go back. This has started today?
Month ago.
That started today?
Yeah, it's Thursday.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Okay. Okay, so I'm recording this. So this is a couple days after the last video. I forgot to take video after he left last time. Craziness of me, but you're saying you walked out of here pretty good?
Yep, walked out mostly pretty good.
Yep. And now it's pretty good, right? So we'll watch you walk now. So go down, walk down. Yeah, it looks good to me. Come on back.
Still a little weak in the right leg, but
okay.
not bad.
So this is a little bit better than when you even left last time.
Yeah, it's a lot better than when I left last time.
Okay, so how much better after last time was it? I mean, like 70% there, 80% there?
This is like 80% better.
How was it after you left last time? That's what I'm wondering.
Yeah, it was considerably improved because I was able to speak and stuff too. So
Okay, good.
even after the first adjustment.
Okay, yeah, because we adjusted it twice last time. Okay, so now you got to see some of the stuff what this guy was dealing with, and it just is shocking that nobody was able to help him. Now the thing I didn't explain was 2 months prior to me actually starting to work with him, his neurologist didn't know what to do with him. He didn't see any problems. He didn't see anything wrong with this guy, and he said, "We'll come back in 6 months, and I'll have an answer for you." So anyway, it's 2 months after that first initial encounter with the neurologist, and here I am working on him. I'm like, oh, it just looks like tethered cord syndrome. Let's just start treating you, and we should be able to take care of it. And so I got to work on him about 4 months, and he went back to the neurologist, and the neurologist is like, oh, tethered cord syndrome. Well, that's interesting. So he pulls out the X-rays, or the MRIs, I'm sorry, and he can't find any hint of it on MRI. And I'm like, well, yeah, no doubt. It's because MRI doesn't show this stuff. Sometimes it can, but most of the time it doesn't. And this is why it's been missed, is because, especially by the neurologists or the MDs, if they don't see it, they don't think it exists. And that's the problem. And so tethered cord syndrome is more, it's better observed just in what the person's having symptom-wise than it is actually seen on an MRI or an X-ray. And that's too bad. It'd be neat if you could see it on it. It would be way more fun. But you don't always see it. But you can tell that this guy clearly had it, and it was, like I say, it was a fun case to work on. So anyway, my name is Dr. Jeff Aberle. If you're interested in advanced biostructural correction, I'll put the link to the provider list right underneath the YouTube video in the Show More area. So just click the Show More button right underneath the video, and you can see then the links to go to find providers that do this work. And if there's not one close to you, you might consider driving quite a distance or even flying to see one, just because the results are that dramatic. I can't encourage you enough to do that. So if it seems like it's a little out of your way, it's still worth a trip. If you have any questions, by all means, leave the comment below, and we'll get back to you. I usually get back to you within the same day, sometimes within a few hours, depending on my schedule. And I try to answer the questions as good as I can, as detailed as I can, with whatever you may be asking. So thank you for listening. Again, my name is Dr. Jeff Aberle, and you have a good day. Thank you.